So I wanted to talk about Kawhi Leonard and what is basically and what who is Kawhi Leonard in 2023. Kawhi Leonard, the basketball player, a superstar in his own right, quiet, not a lot of attention drawn to him, is one of the greatest NBA players of all time by far. And that's no joke. He's in the NBA 75th anniversary. He has enough achievements to be able to get into the Hall of Fame. And he's done enough with his career to not, have to look for anything else and still be able to have one of the most respectable careers of all time. And these are just facts. 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, steals champion, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star MVP, All-Rookie, NBA 75th anniversary. He's done enough and he's good enough to the point where Kawhi Leonard doesn't have to do anything else to be, one of the greatest players of all time. But I just wanted to talk about him and what is Leonard recently, the way that he plays, the way that he manages himself, and how he's been doing. And I just asked myself, what he's at, and he's one of these players where his play style will work into, him growing older. He's not reliant on his back. Is, bulletproof of age. It's the same thing as Steph Curry, which his game of just running, doing cardio, and shooting the basketball doesn't have to change. And his wants also don't have to change. They're in the all-time rankings and don't really need it. So when we look at Kawhi Leonard, and the reason why I'm making this video, it's because, is he still competing? And are we still seeing a player which is serious about winning? Or are we just seeing a player who just basically is on his, way out? And is just playing, because even though he wants to win, he more so cares about the money. There was a clear feeling and, intention in Kawhi Leonard in all of the first years that he had in the NBA of winning a lot. He had the clear intention of making it work with his team, being able to put a stamp on his career. And up until 2021, it just felt like Kawhi actually wanted, to be great. He played like it. He showed every single skill like it. He trained very hard. His efficiency got better. His three-point percentage got better. And his overall, the overall way that he managed himself and that he put himself forth to the game was much better than what it is now. After he tore his ACL in the 2022 playoffs, in the 2021 playoffs, it felt like Kawhi Leonard hasn't really been the same. And I'm not saying that to hate on him. I'm just saying we haven't seen the same level and the same exertion of force like we did before. Before Kawhi, it seemed he really wanted to win a third championship. Even in the 2021 playoffs, he averaged 30 points on 57% from the field. Now, even though he had two great games last season in the playoffs, where he shot 60% from three last season, in the two games that he played against the Clippers, I will say that there was something to be said about his health during these runs. It's obvious that Kawhi wants to save himself for the postseason, but I think it is impossible for you to be able to actually want to play the game and exert the force and give that 150% if you were not giving that previously. And this is my whole point. This is why players like LeBron and Jordan work really well, because in the regular season they give it 100%, and then in the playoffs they give it 150%. So their body is used to exerting all this force and being able to put this pressure on themselves. So when they go and they have to play 40 minutes a night and they can't rest on the bench and they can't rely on their team, it makes them be better, suited for these playoffs. Now, the only problem with this team, and especially Kawhi Leonard, is that in the regular season, he doesn't do nearly enough. He plays about 33 to 34 minutes per game, and he's done that about his entire career. And in his championship runs, that's basically what he played, except for the Toronto one, right? And honestly, with the Toronto one, it was more due to the fact that there were certain games in which he had to play the entire games, like the Bucks series and the Warriors series, where he had to be in basically for all of the game. But apart from that, I do want to say that like Kawhi Leonard's minutes and his exertion to the game have become more limited recently. And I will say that maybe this is some bias due to the fact that I see Kawhi and I notice that he's aging, and I see the fact that he might just be growing into a new era of his career, or this may be an overreaction because I see players like LeBron, KD, and Steph, and they look like they were 20-something at the ripe old ages, which they are. But the only thing that I do want to say with Kawhi is that if you want to win the championship, man, you're going to start having to give more in the regular season. I know it's hard to say, and I know that you want Kawhi to save his body for the playoffs, but recently your team is not good. The Clippers almost lost to the Blazers yesterday. And with the Grizzlies coming back, there's nothing that guarantees you a spot in the stacked West that we have right now. The NBA is more talented now than ever. Before you could get a playoff seeding just off being half good or just above average. But now, especially in a conference like the West, I could tell you 12 teams which I believe could actually contend and have a Western Conference Finals run just in the Western Conference, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, right? The Sacramento Kings, the Los Angeles Lakers, the not the Houston Rockets, the Clippers, the Suns, the Pelicans, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. That's 11 teams that I just named, which I fully believe could actually have some type of Western Conference Finals run this season. So when I look at the Clippers and when I look at what they need to do, I believe that they should give more effort in the regular season. Paul George has shouldered a lot of that load for himself, and I do believe it's unfair to him, not that he has to shoulder the load, because Paul George, even though he scores the same as Kawhi, when it's come to this season and having to do more for the team, play more minutes, take more shots, or at least do what you have to do just to win, Paul George has been showing out as the main guy. I do believe that Kawhi will always get more shots, and he'll always probably be more efficient because he has better shot selection. But when in important games, it's not your superstar who's taking the most important shots, there is something to be said about how much exertion are you trying to put when every single game that you play is a close game. And you are not always the one who has to come up clutch, with James Harden and Paul George having done that in multiple previous occasions. But yeah, I just thought I wanted to say that if Kawhi wants to win, he has to put more effort in. And yeah.